Chapter 23 Biohacker Mom. It's all in your head, right? Of course, I wanted a brain free of disease and free of malfunction. Reading about the brain and its range of possibilities had allowed me to question something. Could I aim higher? Maybe even a high-performance brain? So, how could I make the shift from a brain that was partially dysfunctional to a high-performance brain? What steps did I need to take? I didn't know the answer at the time, but I was determined to figure it out. As I began to read books on the subject of brain optimization, it soon became apparent that the writing was not entirely focused on recovery methods for stroke patients. It was in fact made to improve brain functioning in all people. Among the books I used in my research was Headstrong by Dave Asprey. Asprey had biohacked his brain and transformed it into a high-performance brain. Other excellent books are Anti-Fragile by Nassim Nicholas Taleb and Minding My Mitochondria by Terry Walsh. In addition, I found information online through the Khan Academy, watched the Energy Blueprint course, and investigated academic research papers online at PubMed and other similar sources. What is biohacking anyway? Biohacking adopts the viewpoint that the body is a complete system that can be modified and enhanced. Biohacking is an attempt to manipulate or hack your brain and body in order to optimize performance. A biohacker, furthermore, attempts to tweak their whole system for optimal wellness, thus taking control of their biology outside of the domain of traditional medicine. How well your brain creates energy dictates how you will manage your conscious and unconscious impulse, urge, decision, and desire, Asprey said. Your brain runs your life's operating system. Looking at it that way, I knew I could use a major upgrade of my brain's operating system. That upgrade might enable my body to heal damaged brain cells more quickly, or at least form new neural pathways faster. I also knew that I needed more energy, especially during the process of recovering from my stroke. If the brain uses 20% of your body's overall energy, where does that energy come from? The brain generates its own energy in the form of bacteria-like organisms called mitochondria. How we derive energy from the food we eat is called cellular respiration. The energy we acquire comes especially from glucose but also fatty acids. The primary energy carrier, adenosine triphosphate, ATP, is produced in the mitochondria using energy stored in food and from light sources. So, you really are what you eat, I thought. But what should I eat then? I will split this chapter into several parts containing the different topics I've studied. Some of these areas contain essential information that requires more explanation, so they have their own chapter in a later part of this book. To embrace a cliché, the knowledge I came across will blow your mind. At the very least, it blew my mind. Below is a little crash course on why I became a biohacker mom, one of the healthiest eaters in the world, seriously, and a hormeticist. I'll explain this later. Mitochondria. Mitochondria form in the cell's power plant. In this case, the energy generated is not passed on as electricity, but small universal molecules called adenosine triphosphate. Each cell can carry 500 to 2,000 mitochondria. Depending on your lifestyle habits and environment, you can increase the size and power of the mitochondria in your cells, and even create new mitochondria from scratch. The more mitochondria a cell has, the more energy it can generate. The process in which body cells create new mitochondria is called biogenesis. How can you achieve this? Through hormesis, which I'll explain in this chapter and in more detail in chapter 26. Research about mitochondria makes it clear that cells are easily damaged by oxidative stress. Oxidative stress results from several sources, including infections, bacteria, pesticides, mental stress, overexercising, or just eating poor quality food. Your mitochondria are not just your energy generators. They also play an essential role in defending your cells against threats. When they are required to defend a cell, less energy is available for other body functions. When mitochondria sense cell threats, they engage the cell danger response. This shuts down the energy production in that cell's mitochondria and allows a cell to go into defense mode, thus protecting the body from harm. Hormesis. What is hormesis then? Hormesis is an adaptive response of cells and organisms to a mild or acute intermittent stressor. This adaptive response increases resistance to other stressors and adds to the health, resilience, and vitality of cells and organisms. Again, it is best illustrated with that well-known quote from Nietzsche: "What doesn't kill us makes us stronger." Can stress be good? Yes, stress can be good. More specifically, mild or acute intermittent stress is good, as long as you have time to recover. This type of stress can be regarded as a good thing, since it can help your body become more resilient. Let's look closer at this idea of good stress. You may already be familiar with one form of hormesis: high-intensity exercise. As we exercise, we create stress on the cells. This stimulates the body to adapt to the stressor, resulting in stronger and more numerous mitochondria in the muscle cells. Stress tolerance is the key to longevity. Those stressors, hormesis, promote beneficial adaptation in our cells that makes us feel energetic and robust. This means that all cells are trainable. Exercise is not the only short-lived stressor that produces beneficial adaptation to our cells. The hormetic stress response can also come from cold showers, heat, radiation from sunlight, intermittent fasting, and various other things I will discuss in Chapter 26. Gaining these insights, I realized more and more that I wanted to develop more robust cells. I would increase my overall performance as well as help me live a longer life. Please note, references in literature or other media to chronic stress are not discussing the type of stress contained in hormesis. Chronic stress refers to long-term, soul-grinding worry and anguish that can destroy both mental and physical health. That is not what you want. Let's return to hormesis. Mitochondria counts shrink if they are not stimulated by hormesis. Wow, I thought reading this. I became determined to bring as much hormesis into my life as possible. Hence, my newly invented moniker, hormesicist. Higher numbers of mitochondria create a bigger cellular engine. More mitochondria equals an increased capacity for energy production. When I started taking cold showers, I limited them to 3 times a week. Why? So my body would not get used to it and adapt to the stressor. For stressors to be effective, the body must consider them to be unexpected, not a routine. See Chapter 26. Food. Consumption of fruits and vegetables is beneficial on several levels, including the number of important vitamins and nutrients they provide. But did you know that they also contain stressors in the form of very small amounts of toxic phytochemicals? These stressors force the body to defend itself, develop a response strategy, and that response boosts overall resilience. That's one way hormesis can be achieved through the simple consumption of food. Another significant way seems to be through the practice of intermittent fasting, cycling through periods of voluntary abstinence of food, as you will see later in Chapter 25. Sleep. Why is sleep so important? Scientists have concluded that we sleep for multiple reasons, including energy conservation, brain plasticity, autophagy, the replacement of damaged cells, and memory consolidation, among other things. I used to be a poor sleeper, but I can say now I sleep like a baby most of the time. If you want to know how I did this, read chapter 28, Sunlight versus Junk Light. Light pollution from phones, tablets, and TV could potentially be as harmful as junk food. Blue light seems to be fueling an epidemic of sleep deprivation, and that's why I got my blue light blocking glasses. I had already stopped watching television a while ago. I felt that too much valuable concentration time was being lost. That decision turned out to be very beneficial for me, especially not watching the news. News broadcasts always gave me bad vibes, since they consistently focused on the unpleasant events happening around the world. I gave priority to reading instead. Sunlight contains UVB light, which stimulates the compound 7-dehydrocholesterol in the skin, leading to the production of vitamin D3. Along with other components of the sunlight spectrum, this reduces inflammation. As I began reading about this, I thought of the summer months while I was a patient in Clemendal. The staff seldom took patients out into the sunlight when it was time to give physical therapy sessions. Knowing that stroke survivors are dealing with inflammation, even at a period of 5 to 10 weeks after their stroke, it is hard to comprehend why the staff didn't take advantage of every opportunity to move patients into the sunshine. That would have provided them with immediate benefits. The necessary amount of sunlight is easy to get during the warm winter months, but for the cold and dark winter months, I purchased a daylight lamp. I use it for half an hour every morning at 5 a.m. Martin and his friends at Harvard had also become interested in food and biohacking. They had heard stories about me from Martin and started to call me the biohacker mom. They were right. I sent Martin a picture while I was wearing the blue light blocking glasses, and he responded that he was wearing them too. I decided that I was going to continue creating multiple layers of hormesis through small and simple changes in my life that would build up my cellular engine. I was now convinced that, whether it's food, sleep, or light, you are what you take in and expose yourself to. As you read this, ask yourself, do you want an energy-efficient brain? The advice and information I'm sharing are meant to apply to each of you, not just my fellow stroke survivors. This chapter and some of the following chapters are for anyone who is sick and tired of being sick and tired all the time. I have only shared a handful of suggestions about what has worked for me. I can honestly say that I no longer have to deal with the stroke fatigue ever during the day. If you want to achieve this too, I urge you to read through to the end of this book. Chapter 24, Sleep, and Joining the 5 a.m. Club. My son Martin was delighted to be taking a class with Professor Charles Scheisler at Harvard University. Scheisler is a physician, sleep researcher, and author on the circadian rhythm and sleep medicine. As a self-described biohacker mom, with all that entails of course, I was quite curious about what he was teaching them. At 40-something years old, I envied Martin and wished that I could be back at university again. According to Martin, the professor informed the class that we sleep less than we should, and the less in sleep is due to artificial lighting, television, and the use of laptops, tablets, and phones at night. The light emitted by these objects alters the level of melatonin, the hormone that regulates wakefulness. The variation in melatonin affects REM, rapid eye movement, sleep. REM sleep, which occurs later in the night or further into the process of sleep, is the body's sign that it has entered into a deep sleep and healing state. Low levels of REM sleep affect memory, learning, and the ability to process tasks successfully. You should give priority to sleep, Scheisler said. I already know about REM sleep and had purchased a Fitbit watch first and then an Aura ring to register my sleep patterns. Some of my friends called it the ring that knows too much, referring to its precise measurement of heart rate while experiencing orgasm. I didn't know about that part, I swear. We'll return to my actual reason for buying an Aura ring. The first thing I noticed was that within a couple weeks, I was able to speak more clearly when I got more than 20% REM sleep. What is too little sleep, or too much? For me, 7.5 hours of good quality sleep is enough. I studied my quality of sleep as recorded on the Aura ring, including light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. I concluded that my personal minimum of 7.5 hours needed to be good quality sleep that contained a higher percentage of deep and REM sleep. Whenever my sleep pattern included too much light sleep as opposed to the restorative levels of REM sleep and deep sleep, my overall combination of sleep levels failed to generate sufficient energy and regeneration, and I functioned less efficiently the next day. After reading about the relationship between sleep and the circadian rhythm, I decided to try and see if I could hack my sleep. I would need to optimize my mind-body connection in order to achieve an increased level of both deep sleep and REM sleep. Why? Because anything I did for my body to get optimal sleep would go down the drain if I ignored my mind. In other words, let myself worry too much. Let's start with the mind portion of this mind-body connection. Remember at the beginning of the book when I told you I was getting terrible sleep? Yes, my husband snored, but I was also well known for being a worrier. Most of you know that you can't fall asleep when you have anxiety and stress. So, what was I worried about? I was constantly fretful about my business, my children, if people liked me, what people said about me, and many other things. I read somewhere that warriors die young, and I was not planning to be one of those people, especially since I had started to appreciate life more now and was so grateful for all my family and friends. I also enjoyed the little things more often, like watching the sunset and walking through the woods. So, how could I stop worrying? I knew that it was never going to be clear-cut, and it took almost a year for me to achieve the results I wanted. But believe me, it was worth it. By then, I knew that you could change your brain, but it requires patience in doing specific exercises every day. As always, I began with my nose in a book, doing research. I can recommend the following resources to help you get out of your headspace and into your dream space. How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. The Tools by Phil Stutz and Barry Mitchells. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Optimize, an app by Brian Johnson, and Robin Sharma's course from Mind Valley Quest. And, of course, I still had several books on Stoicism and many other resources that I took inspiration from. I learned from these materials how to effectively turn off the non-stop on switch for the stream of thoughts that ran through my head and kept me from getting the sleep I badly needed. Meditation. Research shows that when meditation is done in the morning, it acts to improve your sleep in the evening. I began by meditating each morning for about 10 minutes with an app called Headspace. I started to notice changes within 2 months, but it took me a full year for meditation to truly accomplish a state of active rest. Not completely asleep, but a state of completely resting my mind. Training such as this leads to improvement in getting the off switch to work effectively. Toll's book, The Power of Now, was also helpful. I began to listen to my breath while thinking of nothing as I prepared to sleep. Far from the ultra-short 10 seconds when I first began, I was able to think about nothing for up to 10 full minutes after I practiced every day for a year. Let me tell you one thing. If the brain gets bored while thinking about nothing, you get tired, and eventually you'll fall asleep from that boredom. I can happily share that it even worked when I woke up in the middle of the night. Instead of entertaining my brain by thinking about people or problems or what-ifs, I willed myself to listen to my breath and think about nothing. Think about it this way. If you are in go, 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 go mode all day long, do you think you can lay in bed at night and tell yourself that you're going to go to sleep? Good luck with that. Some people can, but I'm certainly not one of them. By practicing the off switch during the day and doing my nighttime rituals, which I will talk about later, I was able to sleep soundly at night when I most needed to. I also used ASMR. ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. Wikipedia states that ASMR signifies the subjective experience of low-grade euphoria, characterized by a combination of positive feelings and a distinct static-like tingling sensation on the skin. It is most commonly triggered by specific auditory or visual stimuli, and less commonly by intentional attention control. On YouTube, I often listen to affirmation meditation from Maria to enable these sensations in my mind and body. Her soft, whispering voice gave me pleasant goosebumps on my skin, and what she said was very encouraging. Even though I didn't really believe her words in the first weeks, I eventually started to. That's how the brain works, I thought. It adapts to everything. No more negative self-talk. The next step I took was to stop any negative self-talk. Let me give you an example of a conversation I would have had with my ego before I made this commitment to change the messages I was sending to myself. Linda, I wonder if they like me. I was pretty introverted and shy during dinner. My ego, are you kidding me? Of course they don't like you, because you didn't contribute anything useful. You were silent almost the entire time. They won't ever ask you out again. That's how I had conditioned myself to think and react in the past. If someone complimented me, I would change the subject or respond in a way that indicated a lack of self-respect. Now I have disciplined myself to not care about what others might think about me. With an attitude of, it is what it is, I acknowledge that I have no control over what other people may or may not think. Stoicism. I manage to analyze the things happening to me, and then I ask myself, can I do something about this situation? If I can't, then I switch off and don't allow myself to worry about it. Again, Stoicism. Moving on to the body, you'll remember that mitochondria aren't just energy generators, and they have a dual purpose. Either they produce energy or go into defense response, the cell danger response, CDR. The more you activate cell defense, the more energy mode is switched off. You'll hear more about that in a later chapter. Mitochondria regenerate and repair while you are sleeping. If you don't get enough quality restorative sleep, then your mitochondria are more likely to go into defense mode as opposed to energy mode. I needed to optimize my circadian rhythm and sleep patterns for my mitochondria to be less fragile. I created a ritus, the Latin word for ritual. If I sound like I'm trying to be overly intellectual with this word, feel free to ignore it. I just thought it was a cool word. So, what did my ritus consist of? Light exposure. First, I began to expose myself to bright light in the beginning of each day. In the summer, I went outside without sunglasses on. In the winter months, I used a bright daylight therapy device. Keep in mind, however, that the sun is always the better option. Second, I needed to block blue light exposure after sunset. I installed f.lux, a blue light blocking software. It's free, on my computer, and I always had my blue light blocking glasses with me. Also, our skin has light sensors built into it and can, in some ways, see the level of light surrounding it. Therefore, it is necessary to keep light out of your sleeping environment. I installed red or yellow light bulbs in my bedside lamp and bought blackout curtains that prevented light intrusion from outside sources. I also implemented a digital sunset when all electronics were turned off 3 hours before I went to sleep. The only exception was when I was wearing my blue light blocking glasses in the evenings. It was somewhat of a relief to say goodbye to my perfectionist self and getting lost in non-stop reading and searching on the internet. Food. For a complete discussion on food, see the next chapter. However, I'll mention one thing here. Intermittent fasting. I fasted overnight for up to 14 hours, 3 or 4 times a week. These time spans are essential for autophagy, ridding your body of damaged cells and renewing it. Toward the end of the day, your body should begin to relax and restore itself, not having to digest a huge meal. So, I started to eat dinner earlier and breakfast later. You might respond that you're used to eating late at night and don't think you can eat any earlier. What if I offered a counter-argument? Evidence indicates that enhanced autophagy delays aging and extends the lifespan. Have I gotten your attention now? To optimize your autophagy level, take a slow and steady approach as you progressively move your mealtime to earlier in the evening and later in the morning. Remember to transition slowly. Exercise. I began to exercise first thing in the morning. There was plenty of time to get up, then work out, doing high-intensity training. I had already noticed that I was never able to work out after 6 p.m. because by that time of day, I was too exhausted. Moving exercise to the morning is good for your circadian rhythm. This is because exercise keeps your temperature elevated for at least 4 hours. When you cool down, however, your body releases the hormone melatonin, and that makes you tired and sleepy. If I exercise at 7 o'clock at night, that means I won't cool down until 11. I didn't want that. Don't exercise too late in the day. Temperature. Temperature plays an integral role in circadian rhythm. We are wired to be firmly affected by external temperatures. Look back at the patterns of our ancestors. They stayed up for a few hours after sunset, sitting in the light of an open fire. Firelight emits mostly red light and contains none of the artificial blue light that disrupts the circadian rhythm. The combination of the hormone melatonin and drop in temperature put those hunters and gatherers to sleep in a natural way. My bedroom is a sanctuary, cool, comfortable, and completely dark. There is an optimal temperature range of 60 to 68 degrees, or 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, that you should aim for in your bedroom. Now in the evenings, I usually go for a walk with our dog, Wimmerner, followed by some family time. And then I take a hot bath. Raising my body temperature with hot water and then stepping out into a cooler environment allows my body temperature to lower. That lowered body temperature sets the stage for deep and restorative sleep. Luckily, I live in a village that is quiet at night. But if your own atmosphere is not so serene and you find yourself waking up to outside noises such as barking dogs, traffic, or carrying voices, try wearing earplugs or using a sound masking machine that emits white noise or pink noise. You can even use your phone for this. The Ritis Summary. I got rid of my personal sleep kryptonite. Watching TV, using the computer, engaging in intense conversation late into the evening, exercising too late in the day, and eating big meals late at night. I kept my bedroom cool and completely dark. Every one of these seemingly small and marginal gains, when combined and compounded, does add up, and they make a significant difference in the quality of sleep you're getting. One more thing. What is the 5 a.m. club, and how and why did I become a member? I watched Robin Sharma on Mindvalley Quest. In the section Habits of Masters, I learned that being a master is all about your habits and rituals. It takes 66 days to wire in a new habit. Sharma says, the secret to iconic performers and high-level achievers of excellence is not willpower, but the installation of the right habits. One of these habits is to get up at 5 a.m. I didn't consider myself to be an iconic performer at all, but I felt that it was essential to examine the habits of the best performers in any field of endeavor to help me recover from my stroke. Why did I want to get up at 5 a.m.? Let's illustrate that motivation with a quote from one of my heroes, Richard Branson. I read on the Virgin website. I have always been an early riser. Like keeping a positive outlook or keeping fit, waking up early is a habit which you must work on to maintain. Over my 50 years of business, I have learned that if I rise early, I can achieve so much more in a day, and therefore in life. There you have it. When you get up early, you can achieve much more each day, just like Richard Branson. I found it kinda cool to be a member of a club like that. I hardly ever came across people who got up at 5 a.m., but when I did encounter those people, there was a certain recognition between us, a particular kind of smile, an unspoken question. You're a member too? In the beginning, it was hard to get up that early, but it eventually became easier. After just 2 months, I was able to get up at 5 a.m. without using an alarm clock. I loved it. I had found a bigger reason for getting up early, one that was more important than keeping late hours and then staying in bed all morning. I discovered that my sense of purpose in writing this book was greater than my need for entertainment at night.